Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you so much for being here. Seriously, on this cold night, a Thursday night after a storm. I was praying that it will be a nice weather for us here. So thank God for that. So thank you again for coming. So this is part of From the Ground Up with Esther podcast. And it's a podcast where we talk about stories of faith, growth, and resilience. I started it in April and it's been amazing. It's just been a great adventure for me and growth, a lot of personal growth. And I decided that I want the podcast not just to benefit me, but other people too that could benefit from events, from conversations, from things like that. Welcome to Building with Intention. So, without further ado, let me talk about building with intention. It's something I actually thought about, as many of you know, going through a learning experience and also a career, trying to know what to do because God has given us so many gifts and sometimes we don't know what to do with them. And in the real world, you have to get a job to pay the bills. And you can have so many passions. Like for me, I have so many passions, but the reality is that you have to set goals for your life. You have to be able to enjoy what you do and bring food to your table. So when I was going through all of this, I realized that I met someone amazing that has a great company that is helping women and people get clear on their goals and their careers. And I said, let me get in touch with her, but this just not make it about me and learn from her. I think she can actually be someone we could all learn from. And this is Chelsea Stokes. She's a career coach, goal setting strategist. She's been helping women live an aligned life with their careers. So welcome, Chelsea.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited that you're here.
Yes, I'm so excited. Like, seriously, shout out to you guys for coming out on like a cold night. Like, I know it's easy to stay home and just like be like, oh, I'm too tired. So shout out to you guys for coming out. This is awesome.
Thank you for being here. Yeah. So building with intention, as I was saying, life, you have to be intentional on what you do. And if you don't do it with intention, with clarity, it can be hard sometimes to go about every day in life, and especially your job, which is something that you do every day. And I want to have Chelsea actually tell us your story a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that's what the podcast is about as well. The podcast is about stories that help us grow and listen to experiences and learn from them so we can actually go and take the next step in our lives. So Chelsea, when was it that you realized that you needed to start building your life with intention? And tell us what you do.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go back to when I graduated college. So I graduated college, and I don't know if anyone else had this experience. I had no idea what I wanted to do leaving college. I had an English degree and I had some experience in residence life. So in like dorm buildings on colleges. So I was like, I guess I'll go do that. I applied to a bunch of jobs, got one interview, and I was like, gotta slam dunk this. Luckily got that job, but a couple months in realized very quickly it was not the right fit for me. And I was super unhappy. And I was like, I cannot stay here. So I reached out to a friend who worked in human resources at a company called Time Inc. in New York City. And I was like, hey, I will like pretty much do anything. I just got to like get a job in the city. That was basically my goal. And she was like, oh, sure, like I'll help you with your resume, but we actually have a job at our front desk in human resources. And I was like, that sounds great. Sign me up, went in, got the job. And then I worked my way up there pretty quickly to be a recruiter. So I was a recruiter there for several years, which gave me some amazing experience. There's very high volume, which was great for experience, but I got super burnt out very, very quickly. I was working like 70-hour weeks. I just said yes to everything. I had no boundaries. And I just got to a point where I was like, I have to leave. But I felt like I already made one career transition. What's the chances that I'm going to get lucky enough to get a third career transition? So I stuck it out for a while. And then eventually I just got so burnt out. I was like, I'm about to leave with no job. And I started thinking about like what I might want to do. And through a series of events, I found this company called Backroads, and they do active travel vacations. So they do like hiking and biking trips all around the world. And I was like, that sounds great. That sounds like a great reset. So I applied. I was able to get that job. And that's what I did for 3 years. From 2016 to 2020, I traveled all around the world, Asia, Europe, all around the States, leading hiking and biking luxury vacations. It was like, I call it like my eat, pray, love moment. Because I was just like, I need to like reset my life. And it really did. It helped me to really like reset my nervous system. I wasn't making a lot of money, but I was having a lot of fun and learning a lot about myself. And I actually developed a lot of skills, I think, for entrepreneurship. 2020 came around. Obviously, not a lot of people were traveling. So they let let go of like 95% of the employees. And so I was like, well, let me help my coworkers. Like I always had the idea of career coaching. I'm like, this is a great opportunity. So I helped a couple coworkers with their resumes and getting jobs. And I was like, oh, I'm pretty good at this. I was doing it like donation based. I'm like, I bet I can make some money off of this. But then I was like, how do you get clients? So I found a business coach. She was amazing, helped me build the foundation for my business in 2020. And honestly, at the time, I was like, I'm just gonna do this to like earn some extra money till this pandemic ends. But what I found is that so many people needed help. And it was like the perfect storm because people had government stimulus checks, so they had extra income. And I don't know if anyone else experienced during COVID, like it shined a light on all the things that were kind of like not right in our lives, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of people wanted to change their careers. And so I always say like it was like a snowball that ran away from me and it just started to build and build. So yeah, I would say to answer the second part of your question, I feel like in 2020, I really started to realize that I needed to build like a career that was very intentional. I felt very called to this. It was very natural. And now 5.5 years later, we've helped hundreds of women. I have a team of 10. And it's just been like the most crazy ride. So
That's
yeah, it's been a
amazing.
huge blessing. Woo, yeah.
I love to hear that because this is also a learning experience. I'm having a lot of fun getting
Hmm.
all my friends together and doing this and learning from each other. It
Yes.
is a learning journey. So I'm
Hmm.
very happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So another question that I had, because when we transition in life, there's a lot of limiting beliefs that we have. What limited beliefs do you have to break in order to jump and do this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're gonna do something that's outside your comfort zone, you're gonna have resistance. That's the whole point, right, of leaving your comfort zone. And for me, I feel like I feel like I honestly am very blessed with like delusion. I was just, like, kind of delusional and naive.
Yeah.
So I was just like and I didn't really put pressure on myself in the beginning because I was also living at home, so I didn't share that. So when I worked for that travel company, I literally lived out of a suitcase. So I didn't have I, like, got rid of I didn't have a car because I lived in the city. I told my roommate, I was like, "I'm going to do this crazy thing." So I didn't have an apartment, no kids, not married, no dogs, like, no animals, so I just hit the road. So I was living at my mom's house, so I literally had nothing to lose. I think that was a blessing because I didn't put any pressure on myself, and I feel like that lack of pressure kept me from having a lot of limiting beliefs because I just felt like I really don't have a lot to lose here, right? But as I grew, I feel like the hardest thing for me was other people's perceptions
Mhm.
and dealing with like difficult clients, people like writing things online or stuff like that. But honestly, it's just like, and we'll talk about this in my presentation, like in order to achieve the things you want, you have to build certain character traits. And we often see like that end result of like people's success. Like you guys are hearing now about like what happened 5.5 years later. But there were so many things I just had to go through. And like I feel like the honest answer that I wish someone told me is like, you're just gonna have to go through it. And by going through it, you're gonna gain the character traits that you're gonna need to achieve what you want. Right. And so it's like kind of like those limiting beliefs, like it's just like being comfortable with the discomfort and knowing that if you keep going, you will get through it and you're going to gain so much more with your mindset, your beliefs. It'll just be natural.
So
Yeah.
good. It's so good
Mhm.
to hear because as I go through this too, I can relate to some of the things that you're saying. And I'm
Mhm.
sure a lot of people here that are entrepreneurs, sometimes you feel a little lonely on the road.
Oh yeah.
People, what are people going to say about me? And
Mhm.
it's just, okay, now I got to find my other friends that are going through this too and
Yeah.
are going to support me. And
Mhm.
thank God for those that are still there supporting because it
Yeah.
is a character building.
Oh
The
yes.
rejection part um,
Mhm.
of maybe of yourself or other people
Yeah.
that don't understand what you're doing.
Oh, it's very lonely, And it's like in those moments when you're building those character traits, like no one sees that, right? Like no one really sees that. Maybe if you're like married, like your spouse might see it, but like other than that, like even then, like they're not gonna other people won't really get it? It's tough. It really is. It's not easy, but it's so worth it. Yeah.
I'm so happy. And in your journey, because now you're 5 years in,
Mhm.
we all, like I said at the beginning, now you have your business, but now you get to help people searching for that clarity and building their life. What is the question that most of the clients come to you with in regards to clarity, career?
Mm. Yeah. I think the question is like, what do I do? What do I choose? I think there's a blessing in that there's so many options,
Mm,
right? And like we're so like young, like the world is our oyster, like we can do anything. And sometimes there can be that decision paralysis, right? Of like, what do I do? So I would say that's the biggest thing. We'll talk more about this in my presentation too, but like aligning with like all of us have a purpose. I really do believe that. Like we all are given specific talents and gifts that are unique to us, and we all have the ability to use those gifts and talents. And I think when you can align that with your career, that is gold. Because not only are you going to be helping other people with those gifts and talents, you're always going to feel good when you do something that you're naturally strong at. Even if there's aspects that you need to get stronger in, or like character traits that you need to develop, or limiting beliefs you have to work through, that really is going to help you feel aligned and
mhm.
really intentional. And it might take some time to figure that out. And like I said, we'll talk more about that more in my presentation.
Mhm.
But yeah, I would say that's the main question people come to me with. And that's kind of a short answer of how we
Yeah,
address it.
it's good.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you answered my second question. My other question was, what does direction mean to you?
Yeah, I think like it can mean a couple different things. Like I always tell my clients, like, okay, we want to think about like the next best step, right? So like what is the next best step in your career? And how does that maybe play into like a longer term goal that you have? But I feel like there's so much pressure to be like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? And it's like, whenever someone asks me that, I'm like, I don't know. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I'd be sitting here today and like all the things that have happened, I would have never guessed it, right? So I think that there is a trap of like trying to plan things out too much as well, and not having like the flexibility of life and God and whatever you want to call it. Uh, but yeah, so I would say what was the original question? I want to make sure.
Oh, what does direction mean to you?
Yeah, so I think it's like, what's the next best step? And then, how does that maybe play into some longer term plans that you have, but holding that with an open hand, and then trying to incorporate your natural gifts and talents, like what you feel like your purpose is. Even if you're not 100% sure what your purpose is, you'll figure that out along the way. Yeah.
That's great because for me, like I said, have so many passions, but I'm not doing that at my current job.
Yes.
Right?
Mm.
Thank God has given me I guess, allow me to be brave enough to do things outside of my 9 to 5
Yeah.
that give me life, bring me joy, because a lot of people don't do that and they live miserably,
Yeah.
right? They stay
Mhm.
there 9 to 5 and then they think they're so depressed, they don't have a purpose, they feel like
Mhm.
they don't realize that they can still actually do stuff after their
Mhm.
9 to 5. Yeah. Um,
Mhm.
the other, going back to career, what would you say, when is the right time to apply for a new job,
Mm.
especially now in this market? And people like have so many passions, like myself, for example. How
Mhm.
do we know we can go into a company that will help us develop those skills that we have?
Yeah. Okay. So, well, the market definitely is workable right now. The biggest thing is networking. So, my clients are getting like multiple interviews and offers because I've like dialed in this strategy that like it's like my full time job to figure it out. Right. So, most people don't know it, but the biggest thing is networking. And then within that, positioning yourself for those roles. So, it definitely is possible to get jobs in this market. I know it seems tough, but when we could talk more about this,
Yeah.
and if anyone has questions, obviously we
Yeah.
can talk about it, but definitely the market, it's workable. And I always think like anything, like people might even like there's businesses that are closing right now as far as like career coaching and stuff, but my business is growing. So like there's always a way to work around the challenges. But what can you repeat the question? I want to make sure I'm answering it all.
Yeah, about the market. How do we know?
Oh, when did change jobs?
Yeah.
Okay, so whenever the pain of leaving outweighs the pain whenever the pain of staying outweighs the pain of leaving, that's when it's time to go,
Mhm.
I think. I think that's a simple way to measure. Because no job is perfect, right? And sometimes like we go through different seasons where like maybe a job like serves a purpose for a time, but when you're starting to like have that, where one outweighs the other, then I think that's a good indicator that it's time to go. Or if it's just generally negatively affecting your mental, emotional, or physical health, then it's a liability. So at that point, yeah, I think it's time to start looking elsewhere. And I really find something I do for all my clients is to make a list of desires and deal breakers. So this is a great thing too. My clients have also used it for dating, and so it's like you can use it for both if anyone's dating, but can't know what you're looking for if you don't have something like that, right? Like,
Mm,
I actually give the comparison of dating to my clients all the time. Like, how are you gonna know if you meet the right person if you don't know, like, what your desires and deal breakers are, right? Until
mhm.
you have something to compare to. Also, it really helps to not get emotionally attached to things, because you'll have a list written down that you did when you were not emotionally attached to something. So for example, sometimes my clients, like, they're not getting interviews and then they finally get an interview and they're like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, okay, great. But you said you wanted 110K and this job's only 80K, is that really what you want? Or is it that you're just like feeling like someone finally chose you? So the desires and deal breakers, I always tell my clients, it's like a living, breathing document. You can keep editing it, but I find that really helps for you to decide what the right move is for you. And I'm really big too about, like, you don't just want to get any job, you want to get the right job. And so that will help you to evaluate what you can kind of flex on and what you really need in your next step. Yeah.
I love that
Mhm.
because I think that what you just said, we could use it even if you're an entrepreneur, you could also use it,
Yeah.
use deal breakers for
100%.
clients, right?
Yeah, you can use it for anything, honestly. Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
great. And another question is more modern because AI is here.
Mhm.
AI is here and a lot of people are afraid I'm going to lose my job. Maybe the career path or the business I
Mhm.
have is going to go away because of
Mhm.
AI.
Yeah, that's definitely, yeah. So, I mean, I do think there are some jobs that are more at risk than others. And I do think it's wise to evaluate that. Like, what is the probability? For example, like, I think some like customer support roles, are somewhat going to be replaced by AI. Like, I know I was just like on like a help thing and it was like all AI. It was like, where's the person? So I think it is a wise thing to evaluate, because I do think AI is here to stay, but it's never, in my opinion, going to replace humans. Like,
Mhm.
even for me, like in career coaching, like there are like people will try to use ChatGPT, and I'm sure there will be AI career coaches or tools, but you're never going to replace a human, Like, I even think about, like, I've gone to therapy before. Like, I don't know that I'd want to talk to a robot and, tell them about my
Yeah.
problems. So, not to say I haven't used ChatGPT as a therapist before, because I have,
Same. I
but
have to.
let's be honest. But
Guilty.
yeah, but it's not the same, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so I do think finding those like human first jobs, or, jobs where it's less likely for you to replace and to use AI to your advantage, I think that's wise. So yeah.
That's good.
Mhm.
Good information. So I want to open the floor for you guys. I have time, like 10 minutes for 2 or 3 people if you have a question for Chelsea, and then she will guide us into her presentation. Open if you have a career coach, goal, no one.
Mhm.
A
Mhm.
recommendation as far as like being realistic also with
Mhm.
current marketplace with dating or work.
Well, like, if you want my answer, like, I don't like being like, okay, so obviously being realistic, right? So an example might be like, sometimes all clients are like, I want a 200K salary. And I'm like, okay, but what is the market value for your role? Can you get paid 2K? If not, maybe that's not realistic, right? Like, I think it's great to set big goals, but if the data is saying that you only can get paid 150 or 100, then like we need to evaluate. But I say, like, shoot for the stars. Like, I don't know. I think I just have a different perspective, and it honestly has served me very well. I think there are times to be realistic, but then I think there's times where a little bit of delusion is helpful. And I think it's about a mindset, right? Because I think, like, there's a lot of people, which rightfully so, it's like, oh, the market's so bad, it's so challenging, I'm not going to get a job. How does that mindset really serve you? I think it just makes us fearful, that dysregulates our nervous system. I'm really big on nervous system regulation. So even if it feels like you're faking it at first, like, I think it's wise to just speak the truth that you want to believe. Like, okay, I'm going to get a job in this market. The right job's going to find its way to me. The right person's going to find its way to me. So like, I'm a little bit delusional, but I will say it has served me so well. And I think my mindset has gotten so strong where I just trust that it's going to work out. So I think my faith also plays a part into that. But even before I had faith, I feel like that served me well. So does that answer
Yeah,
your
that
question?
definitely does.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What would you suggest to someone that works like in corporate America where there's so many opportunities for growth on how to navigate that transition? Because I think sometimes there might be a role that we're interested in that's not in our department and we wouldn't want to cause like drama with our manager and like lose the job altogether.
Can I ask, have you talked to your manager about growth or movement? Is that something you can do?
I guess like maybe during like performance review season. I wouldn't even be comfortable like bringing up that conversation. Like, no,
Mhm.
I don't want to work here anymore because that's not the truth, right? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so, I mean, I've had people do a lot of, like, internal transitions. Like, I think companies like, most companies, they wanna retain talent, right? So, if you're not happy in a role or if you've outgrown it, then I do encourage my clients to have that conversation if they can, right? Which I understand that's not possible for everybody. I work with a lot of people that are in unhealthy work environments, because the only other solution is that you're kinda gonna have to, like, go around and what I would say is, like, network with other people in those departments, but the truth gets out, right? So then that almost causes more issues where it's like, oh, why didn't you tell me this was happening? So if it's possible, my first suggestion would be to talk to your manager and to poison in a way that's beneficial to your manager. Like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, like, I've been, want to talk about my growth at the company here. I would love to explore my options, within this department or, what's outside this department. So I think having that conversation. But if you truly feel like that's not possible, it may be worthwhile to consider just looking elsewhere and just seeing what's out there. And sometimes you can actually use that to your advantage if you get an external offer, not in a manipulative way, but I've seen people do that before where it's like, hey, I've gotten this offer externally. I am interested in staying here. If there's these opportunities, what could we do? What could we work out? So, I think you could get creative about that. But yeah, like I said, the only other option if you're not going to talk to your manager is kind of like to go network with other people. I don't know how big your company is, but on my experience, like people find out, people talk, it gets through, and then that kind of puts you in a tough spot, right? And that puts you more at risk. So I understand there's some nuances to it, but that's what I would suggest. And that's what I found works well. Yeah. Yeah. Really good question. Excellent. Do I have a clicker?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Excellent. Okay. So I made this little presentation about goal setting, lazy or incapable, right? I can tell like that you guys are an amazing group, you're hardworking, but oftentimes we fail because we're not going after goals that are rooted in something deeper. Maybe they're goals that are based on what looks good on paper, what your family wants, what you think you want, or what you think might finally bring security. So today, I don't want to necessarily set bigger goals, which we can. I know being delusional, it seems like that resonates with you guys. So we can definitely go big. I think it's more about setting intentional ones that are clear, they're consistent, and create momentum because they're aligned with who you are and what matters most. And that goes back to purpose. And we'll talk about that in a second.
Yes.
So I find that you need a foundation with your goals, right? You need a deeper why and a deeper anchor. So my first question for you guys is, what is your why, right? With whatever you want to achieve, what is that deeper why? I have found that the most sustainable career goals don't start with job titles or money or external success metrics. They start with this deeper why. And this is something I do for every single one of my clients when they come into our program. We don't just ask them like, hey, what are your goals? Because what most people say is, oh, I want to get a job, right? Or I want this amount of money, or I want this job title. We ask them like, why do you want that? Why does it matter to you? Who does it impact, right? Just going a little bit deeper and getting those roots. Again, we often set goals on like what looks good on paper, what we think we should want, or what we think is going to make us feel secure. And then we're surprised when motivation fades halfway through. Has anyone here ever set a goal and then their motivation faded halfway through? My hand's up because that has happened to me, right? So, and that often happens, again, not because you're incapable or you're lazy, it's because there isn't that deeper why that you're rooted in. So, what actually allows you to reach your goals and holds up under challenges is something deeper, something that anchors you when the path gets difficult. When goals are only rooted in outcomes, I find that they collapse under pressure, but when they're rooted in a deeper why, they're going to last. So we kind of touched on this in the chat with Esther, but success is really going to build character qualities that we're going to need, right? So we often admire people's outcomes, maybe their titles, their achievements, their visible success, but we don't see what had to be built quietly along the way. Would anyone be willing to give me an example of someone who they think is successful, someone they admire? Yeah.
Mel Robbins.
And what do you admire about them?
She is not afraid to be authentic and show everybody that she was in a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of sort of figuring it out. And
Yeah.
need to figure it out too.
I love that. Excellent example. Anyone else have another example they want to share? Could be a sports person. For me, I really like Layla and Alex Hormozy. I think
I like
that
them.
they're awesome. And I think they're very like no BS, straight to the point. They're Like they know where they're going. They've learned so much along the way. So like with these examples, we see the success that they have now, right? But we didn't see what happened along the way, right? Mel Robbins didn't become that way on accident. She had to likely go through a lot of things to build character traits that like discipline, boundaries, maybe just having a tolerance for discomfort, self-respect, courage. These are the things that are forged in those quiet moments. So like I said earlier, character is going to be forged in those unseen moments. Circumstances are visible and flattering, but character is quiet and it's forged in moments that no one applauds. And I think that's important too. It's like a lot of times, like our goals are achieved in those really tough times. I know for me, like there were times where I was like crying, like on my kitchen floor. Like, it was difficult because I had to build certain character traits to get what I have today. So that why is what's going to anchor you when things get hard. If you just have like something fleeting, like just some random, outcome like money or titles, it's not going to be enough to anchor you through those challenges. You need something deeper for when motivation fades, fear shows up, or the path feels uncomfortable. That's what's going to challenge you, what's going to carry you through those challenges and actually help you to build that character along the way. So we want to clarify your why, and you might already be thinking about your why. And the real question is whether it's fleeting or enduring. I don't know why it's so close. Sorry, guys, but it's okay. Before moving forward, I want you guys to consider.
That's what
I know, I'm like reading. I'm like, where are you going?
That's what
Yeah, it's okay.
I was
It's all good. You don't even have to. It's all good. So before moving forward, I want you guys just to start thinking about these questions, right? Is what I'm chasing temporary or enduring? Will this matter to you years from now, or is it just attractive right now? For example, like a job title, like sometimes I tell my clients, I'm like, your job title's, it's going to sound morbid, but I think it's a good comparison. It's not going to be on your gravestone. Like that, it doesn't really matter. And in the end, like I know it might feel like it matters in the moment, but it doesn't. Of course, it's a great like thing to have and it can help you and it can be a tool, but that is something I would consider temporary, right? It's not really enduring. Even money too. Like money comes, money goes. Like I think if you get rooted too much in money, I will say this in my experience, like it's not enough, right? It's not enough to really keep you going. It's not enduring. Another question to ask is, am I proving something or becoming someone? Is this about external validation or internal alignment with who I want to be? I think a lot of times we might want to achieve things based on how it looks or maybe what our parents want or our spouse or our friends or comparison. So that's a great question to ask. And your why doesn't need to sound impressive. It just needs to be honest. And I do really find that being honest with yourself about what that why is and clarifying it will really help you to stay anchored. Cool. So once you get your why, then we want to layer in purpose. So purpose is how your why shows up in the work you do and the way you contribute. It's the bridge between your internal values and your external impact. So in that little worksheet that I have, I put a bunch of questions, which, you guys can fill out later. I know it's like pretty big. But I wanted to give you some questions to think about. But some really great questions to start asking yourself to figure out your purpose if you don't feel like you know, or even if you want to refine it. What strengths come naturally? What works gives you energy? Who are you drawn to support? And what values define your thriving? So I do just want to give the caveat too that like I feel like figuring out your purpose is like a really big question, like, and I think it could feel really daunting. And I just want to like set the expectation that I hope today is so helpful and that it blesses you guys. But like, if you don't have it all figured out today or next week or in the next month or even in the next year, it's okay. Like for me, I'm still figuring some of these things out and it just takes time. So I also just want to give the caveat of like, don't put so much pressure on yourself. Like, oh, what is my purpose? Maybe it's just going to take time to figure it out, or maybe you'll leave here today having a lot more clarity. Awesome. So I think that this is a great, these are great 4 layers. We went into the why, right? That's your anchor. Then we have purpose. Then we're going to layer in direction and your goals and action. So as you can see, like I'm kind of like working backwards from the goals and action to really make sure we have this strong foundation that's really going to keep your goals anchored. Now, it may be though that like maybe you know a little bit about like your purpose, but you need to figure out your why, or maybe you know a little bit more about your goals, but you need to figure out like your direction and your purpose. And I'll explain more about what these all mean. But I do really find that having these 4 layers is going to give you that foundation that's going to allow you, again, to achieve your goals, to have that deeper rooted foundation to get you through those challenges and to make sure that your goals are really, really steady. So when goals flow from this layered foundation, you stop chasing impressive sounding roles and start moving with genuine intention. So each layer is going to build on the one before, creating alignment from your deepest values to your daily actions. And I find this works really, really well for me and for my clients. Okay, so we're going to break down each layer. So layer 1 is the why, right? Like what ultimately matters to me. These are the values and meaning that keep you steady through challenge. Layer 2 is purpose. So that's how you're designed to contribute, right? Maybe the way your why shows up in your strengths, your energy, and your service. Layer 3 is direction. So where you're focusing next, that's the lane that you choose to apply your purpose. And then layer 4 is goals and action. So what am I doing in the next 30 days and what are you committing to now? So I just want to give you guys like an example of what this could look like. And I'll just give the example for me. My why when I first started my company was I just want to help one person. I just want to help one person in their career. And if I can change one life, then that would be enough for me. And today, even though now we've helped hundreds of people, that is still my anchor. Like I still just want to change one life. And every time we get like someone who gets a new offer or, a life-changing salary increase, that has been really enduring for me. It's not fleeting, right? Purpose for me, I really feel like I'm called to help people in their careers. I feel like that is why, for whatever reason, that is what my purpose is. That's where my gifts align. And I feel like that's where I'm designed to contribute. And I do really feel called to help women. Of course, I know there's men here too, and I can help men as well, but I feel really called to women in particular. Layer 3 is direction. So for me, that's my business. And it may be that you have multiple directions. So I do recommend if like you don't feel like you have a lot of clarity, try to get one direction first and get that solid. So now that I have my business and it's pretty solid, I've layered in now doing like volunteer work. So I volunteer with an organization called the Hoving Home. It's a faith-based organization that helps people, women overcome addiction and get their lives back on track. So I work in their career lab, and I feel like that's a way I'm kind of, again, putting my why and my purpose into my direction. But it's kind of hard, I think, when you try to choose too many directions. So I do recommend choosing one. And then layer 4 is the goals and action, right? So then now we finally get the goals, right? What are you doing in the next 30 days? For me, I am hiring like crazy. I'm hiring salespeople. I'm hiring coaches. So that's kind of been my focus. But all these other things help me figure out what am I doing today? What am I doing this week? What am I doing this month, this quarter, this year? So this is a really, really great foundation. And that's an example of how it's laid out. Okay, so we talked a little bit about limiting beliefs. So I just want to give you guys some common barriers and powerful reframes. I was trying to say this earlier. Hope the best offense is a good defense. That's that phrase, right? Am I getting it right? Okay, I'm not good at sports, but I think that's right. So we want to be prepared, right, and to be proactive about like what might be to come. Fear of failure and rejection, right? Huge. But you could think courage is movement, not certainty, right? There's always going to be uncertainty in what we do, right? We just got to start to move forward with courage. And again, that courage is going to be built the more you put yourself out there and do things that you're uncomfortable with. Imposter syndrome. So I think imposter syndrome is just, again, a lack of growth. So you could reframe it as growth happens at the edge of competence. So that can help as well. Analysis paralysis, that's a big thing too, just like not being able to make a decision. I do really encourage y'all to just like choose a path. Like you will figure it out along the way. I feel like so many people miss out on opportunities because they don't just start. Like you just gotta like go. You gotta like pick up your mat and walk. Like you got to just walk forward. So clarity is going to grow through action, not waiting. And I find that people see way more growth and success by just moving forward. Layla and Alex Hermosi, they're a great example of this. Like they just talk about like they made so many mistakes, they lost so much money, but like look at how successful they are now just because they moved forward. And I could say for me too, like I made so many mistakes, but by just moving forward, I learned a lot. An inconsistent follow through. So you don't need the full staircase, just the next step. And I do encourage to break it down in digestible chunks. That's why I just kind of built out like the next 30 days. I think it can sometimes be daunting to be like, what am I going to do in 2026? Like that can be a lot and also puts pressure. So, getting those little chunks can really help you guys. Awesome. So I put this into the workbook as well, but this is a 30-day purpose alignment challenge. So your responsibility is getting some clarity and getting a commitment. So your outcome isn't yours to force, but movement is. When you create space for intentional direction, the right opportunities are going to find you. So I think it's great to think about like, who are you becoming? That can really help with your why and your purpose. So you could choose one word. You can figure out your 12-month direction. Again, that doesn't need to be your goal, just kind of like where you're kind of headed, that third layer. And then what are your next actions? So that's where your goals really come in. You could list 3 aligned steps that you want to take in the next 30 days, depending on what you want to achieve. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you guys. And if you want to connect on Instagram, that's my handle. So we're happy to chat and happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Mhm.
Chelsea. This is really helpful for me, and I know for everybody too. Does anybody have a question, follow up, or anything like that? No? All right. Well,
I
I
got one.
have to.
Yeah.
You said you're hiring a lot right now,
Mhm.
kind of growing at a rapid rate. And earlier you shared about how you went on that journey, kind of traveling, and how growth really requires a mindset change and
Yeah.
shift.
Mhm.
So I'm curious for you personally, now that you're stepping into this new stage of your business and stuff, where do you think your mindset has to change to get to that next level that you're going to?
That's a great question. Oh, I struggle with control. So I think the big mindset shift is trusting my team. And I have found and I've learned that when you don't trust people, their confidence dwindles because they feel like, oh, you don't trust me to do this. You're getting involved, right? And I wouldn't say I'm like micromanaging, but I feel like I
It's a
am.
little.
A little bit. Okay. Let's be honest. A little bit. So yeah. So I feel like my mindset has to change about, okay, let me hire the best people that I can find. Let me trust them to do their best work. So that's been a big shift for me. And then also it's been a big change for me to go from like a solopreneur. I did hire my first hire a year in was coaches. Like I just realized like I could not do the delivery on my own. I was like spending 2 hours editing resumes and I'm like, I got sales calls. I got to like do my tax. I'm like the virtual assistant. I'm answering the emails like Team Chelsea. And it's like, it's just me. So fake it till you make it. But so yeah, so now I'm also focused on like, okay, how can we build a great team culture? How can I make this a great place to work? What are maybe like the areas where we can improve? And it's also like shifting my mindset of like getting feedback from my team and really just evaluating like how we can grow. But I would say the biggest thing for me right now is control and releasing that control to let my team handle what they're good at. So yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank.
Mhm.
I have one question,
Yeah.
which is more to like the job search related, right?
Mm.
How should people search for a job that they're interested in? Like, LinkedIn, Indeed. What is
Mhm.
the best way to go about that? And yeah.
Okay. So my program, we have 6 main pillars. So the first thing is mindset. So got to get your mindset right. Like we were talking about, like saying things like, I'm going to get a job, like the right job's going to find its way to me. Like, even if it does sounds fake, like just speak it into existence, honestly, like just speak that truth. The second thing is career clarity. I really recommend, and people always push me on this, but trust me, one direction. Figure out what one direction you want to go to. What I'm finding is like almost everyone I talk to, they're like, oh, I maybe want to be like an operations manager or a project manager. Like, get one path, like really figure out, okay, where do I have the most experience? Where am I the most hireable? And figure out that one path. And then the third thing is your personal brand. So then brand yourself for that one path. So like your LinkedIn profile, for example, if you're going for like a director of consumer marketing, you can put really niche keywords in your LinkedIn, in your resume that will help you get found easier than if it's general or if you're trying to go too many different places. So figure that out, then network like crazy. I really find emailing, this is like, oh, it could go in it could be a whole other presentation, but emailing decision makers at companies, but really just like networking like crazy. You also never know. So many of my clients, like they find opportunities just through their own network. Once they kind of figure out that direction, that branding, and then they have a really good mindset, it's like opportunities just start coming their way. So get those other things first, that foundation, and then start networking. And definitely, I find LinkedIn is the best place to find jobs, the most legit jobs. But there's something also called the hidden job market. So if you network, opportunities that aren't posted will crop up. That will just happen. So that just comes through networking. But go look up the LinkedIn Boolean search. This is a really great tool to help
What's
you
it called?
find Boolean, Boolean. Boolean search. So it's like using different things like let's say I was a recruiter, recruiting, capital A and A-N-D, human resources, and diversity, and it'll pull up jobs that have those keywords. That's a great tool because a lot of times you're not finding the right jobs because you have like 50,000 results on LinkedIn. So look that up. There's a page on LinkedIn's like help page to help you figure that out. That really helps to find the best jobs. And if you are in a niche industry, definitely look at niche specific career boards and like literally check it like every day. Make sure you do the networking as well. So I know that was a long answer. I could do like a
No,
whole
that's great.
talk on that, but
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you so
of
much.
course. Yeah.
So, thank you so much for being here and giving yourself this opportunity to learn. Elsie, thank you so much for coming. You give her a round of applause. Yes, yes, she did amazing, and I can't wait to see where her business goes and all the people that she's going to help. So you can follow her on social media, Chelsea, right? Instagram. Her
Yeah,
handle,
Chelsea Stokes
Stokes
_
underscore.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And this is the podcast From the Ground Up with Esther. You guys are welcome to follow it too. It's on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio. I also have an accountability group that you can join. We meet every Monday at 7 a.m. in the morning. And we put in practice what we're learning from the stories, because a lot of the people I'm interviewing are people that are entrepreneurs that are going through the journey, they're professionals too. And everyone, like Chelsea, before she started, she had to overcome a lot of beliefs about herself, other people, and then make the jump to her purpose, what she's doing right now. So it inspires me and allows me to share that with everybody else. So that
Yeah.